Today, we're looking at Diamine Damson. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. Diamine Damson is a purple or violet ink. Now, to make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples. I then put the ink into a different pen for a day. I then put it into a Nemosine Singularity with a fine nib to take my notes for this video. Before we get to the writing samples, let's look at the sciencey bits. And up first is the chromatography, and I agree with Vita that I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down and immediately put it into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And we see a very light purple on the bottom that pushes its way up. We get the dark purple and we get a super dark purple line across the top. The one on the right I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water. We see a much darker purple area across the bottom of that line. We then get to see that very light line, the dark purple and the super dark purple across the top. As we've seen before, I don't expect this to have a whole lot of hold on in the resistance tests. And with that, resistance tests are done so that we can see how this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it might be to clean from your pens. Now, I let that smear dry for 3 days before testing it. And when we see the highlighter, we say, holy feathering Batman. This thing does not like being re-wet at all. Do not use this if you need to be able to highlight back in some notes. And that result's rather expected when we look at what happens with water. Water is completely reactivating and pulling it up. Now, yes, there's that darker spot, but look, all the way around the edge, it's getting super, super light, which makes me feel that this is all that we may need to clean it from the pen. And when we look at the pen flush, what we see is that it's doing very much the same thing as water did, which is often that clue that water is all that's needed to clean this from your pens. Now, it does have some nice blooming of it pushing out, and it makes some nice colors, but it's just a little extra chemicals that you might not need. Bleach, as would be expected, is completely pulling it off the page, and as we've frequently found with some of these inks, it's leaving a little bit of yellowing behind, which, again, I hope you don't use bleach to clean this from your pens. For the inks I've tested, I have found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Diamine Damson has a viscosity of 1.61, which makes this very wet. Very wet. This is a high-flowing ink. Wow. We don't get a ton that come in below that 1.7 line. How do I find my average dry times? I use my writing samples done on Clairefontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper with the extra fine and medium nib. I average all 6 of those. For the inks I've tested, I found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Diamine Damson has an average dry time of 19 seconds, which puts it right in normal. And considering how absolutely wet this ink is in terms of its flow and viscosity, that's pretty good that it takes that long to dry. But it might be because it's putting a lot of ink down and it's just taking some time. Now, let's look at the writing sample. I picked this ink up in sample form, and to keep writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's look at Clairefontaine. We get no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, and some light shading throughout the writing. Light shading. The same tone, the same tone of violet, purple, in extra fine. The extra fine has no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen. It does get some consistent shading throughout the writing. Certainly plenty of places that are darker and lighter in the same word, which is a quality that I really do look for. Quick. It's a very mid-tone of this color to dark. Brown has lighter spots in the top of the brown. Fox goes from lighter to darker. Very nice. 14 seconds to dry. The medium, same tone as the extra fine. The tone's not changed. It's just a thicker line, makes it appear like it's darker, but it's really the same tone. When you fold the paper over and you look at it side by side, it's the same. It's really very nice in how strong this color is, that it doesn't matter what pen you're using. You know what the color ink is going to be. So the medium gives us no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, and nice shading throughout the writing. The same type of shading that we saw with the extra fine, and only 18 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both the medium and the extra fine show us that we're going to get some color variation, and we did. The smear test makes me feel that I could recover this with it being a darker ink. So I go to Tomoe River, where we get no bleeding. We do get ghosting. The 1.1 gives no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. And in the same tone of purple, the extra fine has no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. 21 seconds to dry. The medium, same tone. No feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. And 26 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us we're not going to get any color variation, and we didn't. The smear test says you wrote it on Tomoe River. Good luck, bucko. Rhodia paper had no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 had no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen. Not really a lot of shading here. Not a lot of shading. I know a lot of people go to the Rhodia. I use Rhodia a lot because I can sort of get it in bulk. I search out those deals on eBay where you get 10 notebooks and it went for like $30. And when I see that deal come up once a year, I buy a couple of them so I know I have plenty. That's why I use it. People use it. I don't feel like Rhodia always gives all the best performance. But it is a good paper. And on the premium papers, it's definitely one of the more accessible ones, which is what does make it very good. I use this with the Nemosine, the Singularity, which is very dry. And we're looking at a line a line thickness. We're getting the same tone. If I can put the extra fine with it. We're getting the same tone. That's very nice. It's very nice that it is so consistent in its color that it doesn't matter what pen you put it in. Great. So medium, same tone. No feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. 20 seconds to dry. We lost all the shading on this paper. The scrubby shows us that the extra fine should have some color variation. It did have some color variation. The medium shows us no color variation. It did not have color variation. The smear says you can likely recover it, and I believe it. So I check Limon paper because we'll find something. We'll find a second one, a friend, for the one ink that worked. We get spots where it wants to bleed through, but it's not a full bleed, doesn't touch the page underneath. We get plenty of ghosting as a result of the bleeding. Not in itself. It's not just ghosting itself. You see it, it's pretty clean. But as a result of the bleeding, we can see so much. So the 1.1 at the top has spread, has feather, has no halo, no sheen, and no shade. The extra fine became more of a fine, so it's spread. It has some words have that light, blurry looking feathering, but only a couple words. I see it a little on the quick, a little on the, a little on the G of dog, and that's it. So it's not feathering like crazy, and it's not making all of the writing blurry. We have no halo, no sheen, no shade. 9 seconds to dry. The medium became a broad. It spread. It feathered. It feathered all over. It's blurry. It's got no halo, no sheen, no shade. 11 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both show us we can't get color variation from this ink. We didn't. Smear test says we can recover it. I believe it. So I look at black and red paper. Black and red paper gives us no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, and no shading. So some of the papers, you lose some of that shading quality that it has. I think the greatest quality this ink is bringing us is the same tone all the time. The extra fine, same tone as the 1.1. No feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade, 11 seconds to dry. Medium has no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade, 13 seconds to dry. The scrubby tells us we're not going to expect color variation. We didn't get color variation. The smear test says we could likely recover this if we did smear when we were writing. And that's all that I have for the writing sample. Instead of finding inks that look like Diamine Damson, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. I've chosen Noodler's Huang because it's a beautiful magenta ink, and I am really hoping I pronounced that correct. We'll see. Before I give my opinion on this ink, I would ask, if you've enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. And if it's your first time here, I would invite you to subscribe. So what do I think of Diamine Damson? If I didn't already have a purple ink that I absolutely love, this would be the ink that I would go for. This purple performs well with every pen on every paper that I've tested. And it's a really kind of a unique looking purple compared to many of the purples I've seen. This is a fantastic ink, and its color is super consistent. Thanks for watching.